LA. We're all in this together.
Let's get it on.
KBLA Talk 1580, broadcasting from the heart of LA's Leimert Park. We've got a lot to talk about.
We are going to have to fight. We're going to have to struggle. We're going to have to struggle relentlessly to bring about some peace.
No woman, no cry. No woman, no cry. I remember when we used to sit in the government yard in Trenton. Mingle with the good people we meet. Good friends we have and good friends we've lost along the way. In this great future, you can't forget your past. So dry your tears, I say. No woman, no cry.
Wakanda Forever, the sequel to Black Panther, opens tomorrow, as if you didn't already know that. A conversation now with Dr. Sheena Howard about why Wakanda matters, what Black Panther reveals about psychology, identity, and communication. I am delighted to have Dr. Sheena Howard in dialogue with us for the hour. Dr. Howard, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you here, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about what everybody else is going to be talking about, has been talking about, will be talking about for some time to come. Wakanda Forever hits theaters tomorrow. Let me start with this, and we'll work our way through this hour. I'm glad I've got all 60 minutes with you. What are your expectations? Chadwick Boseman, sadly, no longer with us, so obviously he will not be in this sequel. But what are your expectations of Wakanda Forever tomorrow?
So, I think it'll be, emotional, especially at the beginning. We know that they're going to pay tribute to Chadwick Boseman, T'Challa, and, that will be acknowledged at the beginning of the film as, they hinted in the trailer that it would. So I think it'll start out emotional for people. But then, we'll get into the action, the storyline, and I'm most excited to, see who's going to take up the mantle of Black Panther. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you and millions of others around the globe, for that matter. What do you think made Black Panther, what caused it to become the box office behemoth that it was, $1.3 billion in gross receipts? What drove that? What made that happen?
So, there was a prevailing myth that, Black leads in superhero films couldn't sell. They couldn't sell domestically. They couldn't sell internationally. And so that was a myth that we have been sold as a reason for why we don't have more Black superheroes. And obviously, Black Panther, the first movie, shattered that notion. And I think, the Black community supported. We came out in droves. And then, the celebrities buying out movie theaters, people seeing the movie multiple times. And it was a good film. There was a lot to see. There was a lot to digest. There was a lot to think about in the film. And, when people when they care, they share. So the movie touched people and made them come back into the movie theater multiple times. And so, that really inspired me to just dig into the psychology behind the film, right? What was happening? Why were people so drawn to this film?
Yeah. Psychologically, what difference does it make? Why does it matter to have Black leads in roles where they're playing superheroes?
I think people need to see themselves. When people see superheroes, they want to feel like they can be the superhero of, their own lives. It gives them motivation. It gives them something to aspire to. And when you can't see yourself in certain roles, right? It takes you imagining something that you don't see in order to be that thing. Like, for me, I didn't realize that I could be a professor until I went to Howard University for my PhD and saw Black professors everywhere. So sometimes it takes us seeing that thing in order to have the realization that we can be that. Like, we can be the heroes of our own story. And then just to layer on top of that, going to the movie theater and seeing Wakanda, these free Black people, these people that can determine their future, and they have power and they haven't been colonized and all of those things, it gives you a sense of escapism. And for a lot of people going to the theater, they want to escape some of the real life issues that they have day to day.
Another shout out to the Bison of Howard. So I heard that loud and clear. HU. I ain't mad at you. Let me ask you this before I move forward here. This is a broad question. Again, we're going to narrow as we move through the hour and talk specifically about why Wakanda matters. But give me a sense of your research. I'm always fascinated by persons, whether they've gone to Howard or wherever, and they get their PhDs, and some people, to my mind at least, research some of the most interesting stuff. I mean, I'm just fascinated by how a professor ends up in this lane of research. So give me a better understanding of your research and how you end up getting on the track, on the trail, as it were, being a trailblazer in some ways. Researching and wrestling with this notion of why Wakanda matters. Help me understand your research for starters.
Yes, for sure. I really appreciate that question. In 2007, I went to Howard University. I was only 23 years old, going into a PhD program. So pretty young to be going into a PhD program with mostly 30-year-olds and over. And a PhD program is they're like, what is your dissertation going to be on? What are you going to write this book on, right? You need to write this book to graduate. And so I didn't really know. And so I just looked around my environment. What do I like? What am I into right now? And I just so happened to be reading the Boondocks comic strip. So I know your listeners know the Boondocks animated show. Some of them might not realize that it was actually a comic strip before that. And it was a very witty comic strip.
Aaron Magruder.
That's right, Aaron Magruder.
Sure.
For sure. And so that's what I was reading. And, the strip came out and it was able to comment like weekly and monthly on political issues, social political issues. And so I was fascinated by that. And that's what I decided to do my dissertation on. Now, I really want your listeners to understand that in 2007, 2009, it was not cool to be studying comic strips in academia. Like, that was not the thing. So, right. So I was, my dissertation advisors were like, what? You want to do what? They didn't get it. But, I persisted. I felt like this was important because what I had come to realize is when I was doing my research on the Boondocks comic strip, I wanted to go get a book about the history of Black people in comics. So I thought, I'm at Howard University. I thought I was just going to go to the basement, find the book, Black people's contributions to comics. Couldn't find the book. No book. It just gave me the lineage of Black people in comics. And I was like, this can't be. Right? I remember seeing a book. It was like the American history of comics. Did not mention one Black person, Tavis. Didn't mention one. So I said, this is a problem. This is a big problem, and this, that's where I decided, this is where I can make my contribution. It's very important to document the history of Black people, and so, comics also played a very pivotal role during the civil rights movement. Black people using the medium to challenge social issues, right? And so that's where I decided to start my work in documenting Black history in that way.
Now, to your point about comics and the civil rights movement, Dick Gregory, chief among them, nobody better. In that era, as you know, than Dick Gregory, speaking truth to power through his comedy on stage. God rest the soul of our friend and brother Dick Gregory. I'm glad I asked that question. Didn't know what the answer was going to be, but I'm glad I asked it because it's always fascinating for me to understand the backstory of people who do interesting research. And I say all the time, Dr. Howard, that we have to assign ourselves. There's still so much work yet to be done to document the history of Black folk in this country. And sometimes you have to assign yourself to do something that has not as yet been done. In the process, here's what happens. If you're Sheena Howard and you assign yourself to do something that ain't been done, even as your committee wonders why you're going in this direction, here's what happens ultimately.
Yes.
You do the work.
Yes.
And you end up like Dr. Sheena Howard, being an award-winning author, a filmmaker, a scholar, and editor of this book, Why Wakanda Matters, What Black Panther Reveals About Psychology, Identity, and Communication, which we'll talk about in this hour. But more than that, you end up being the first black woman to win an Eisner Award. Now, let me tell you what the Eisner Award is. It is essentially the Oscar of comics. It's like winning an Oscar Award in the comic arena. So she is the first black woman to win an Eisner Award. Put another way, she's big stuff, and I'm glad to have her on in this hour. Dr. Sheena Howard, more of our conversation with her when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Be sure to like and follow Tavis Smiley at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Kyber here for JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour, where KBLA's very own Lynn Richardson was a keynote speaker. Here's what Lynn had to say when asked what the top 3 tips were for someone beginning their journey to financial freedom.
The first one would definitely absolutely be to write what it is that you want. The things that I wrote when I was broke, down, under the ground, didn't know how I was going to make it, are happening today. And they're actually bigger than I ever thought. The dreams that I had, it didn't seem possible, but I had the wherewithal to write it. Thoughts disentangle themselves when they pass through your fingertips. So when you see what it is that you want, it becomes more real. The second thing is to speak what you seek until you see what you say. Get rid of haters, naysayers, blockers, and just detach and find your crew. And the third thing is to get started at JP Morgan Chase and get all of those accounts that you need to save, to spend, and to pay your bills.
Health is Wealth and Medicare and Covered California's open enrollment for medical insurance is here. RHJ Insurance Agency can help you find affordable rates and the plan that's just right for you and your family. Call 562-204-6120 for your free quote. Don't leave your health to chance. Open enrollment is here and affordable coverage is just a phone call away. Call 562-204-6120 for your free quote and get the coverage you need. Go to www.rhjins.com.
Where can you start holiday shopping now for a season full of savings? Lowe's action. Find prices you love backed by the Lowe's Price Promise, like the 4-piece LG stainless steel kitchen suite was $4,267, now $2,986, for a total savings of $1,281. Check back daily for deals during Black Friday month and start saving now at Lowe's. Home to any possibility. Offer valid through 11/16. Terms and exclusions apply. See store for details. Learn more at Lowe's.com/price promise.
There's nothing like the smell of grand from your new kitchen in your new home. When you're ready, Rocket Mortgage can help with loan options to fit your needs. Some with as little as 3% down to help you get into your new home and kitchen. Then you can let Grandma break it in. So when it's time to buy that house and make it home, Rocket can. For more information, call 888-900-0409 or visit rocketmortgage.com.
Call for cost information and conditions and closing lender license in all 56 MLS ConsumerAccess.org.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
I'm Tavis Smiley. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Our phone number 1-800-920-1580. Love that track, All the Stars, from Kendrick Lamar and SZA. That, of course, was on the soundtrack for Black Panther. And you can't go wrong when you got Kendrick Lamar on your soundtrack. So we will see what the soundtrack of Wakanda Forever sounds like. I love soundtracks. And the first one was pretty good. And so we'll see who they have put on the soundtrack for Wakanda Forever when it opens tomorrow. The sequel to Black Panther, Marvel Studios' award-winning $1.3 billion grossing movie. Again, hits theaters all across the country. Tomorrow, it will not feature Chadwick Boseman, but you heard our guest, Dr. Sheena Howard, say at the beginning of the movie, there will be very artistically, I'm sure, a tribute to Chadwick Boseman, to T'Challa. And so we will see what this all looks like when the movie hits theaters tomorrow. In this hour, we're talking with Dr. Sheena Howard about Wakanda and why it matters, what Black Panther reveals about psychology, identity, and communication. Before I get into our conversation straightway about that, two things right quick. Number one, because the phone lines lit up, which is good news. I mean, people are listening to the station. So let me answer the question that many of you had. We've been running a promo here about two gift packages we're giving away. Wakanda Forever Weekend. It's a pretty amazing package. I don't have all the details in front of me, but I've been hearing the promo myself, and I hope I wish I could win one of these things, but I can't since I work here. But we're giving away two major Wakanda Forever Weekend packages, and I'm told that both of those packages will be given away today during the 5 o'clock hour on Don Amici versus Everybody. So for all those persons who just called asking, by the way, Tavis, when are they giving those packages away? Today, during the 5 o'clock hour of Don Amici versus Everybody right here on KBLA Talk 1580. So you didn't win the $2 billion lottery ticket this week, but you could win a Wakanda Forever Weekend package if you're listening today during the 5 o'clock hour of Don Amici versus Everybody. So that answers that question, number one. The second thing I want to get to with Dr. Howard before I move forward into talking more expressly about why Wakanda matters and what we can learn about Black Panther psychologically with regard to our identity and communication in a moment. But you were talking about. I asked you the question about your backstory, about your dissertation and your discipline and your study, and you assigned yourself, as I said earlier, to really do the research on Black comics. Give me the top line. I know there's a whole book about this. You did your dissertation on this, obviously, but give me the top line of what you learned when you started digging into Black comics, because the information heretofore just did not exist.
Yeah, so when I started digging in, it was really important for me to center Black people, meaning I wanted to start my dissertation with the very first Black person that was creating comics in this country, instead of starting with white people. So that was super important. But I came across the names of some just really amazing comic creators, such as, Broomstick Brandon, who actually has a daughter, Barbara Brandon Croft. They were like a duo, like a father-daughter syndicated comic duo, and that was cool. So I really just got to see, outside of our common knowledge of the Black orators that were fighting during the civil rights movement and that kind of thing, I really got to see a different side in the comic space. How are they doing those same things with the medium that they were working in? And that was pretty cool, and it was inspiring. Like, it's inspiring to study the progression of Black people, especially in a medium that, back then wasn't getting as much recognition. Right now, comics are like cool. Everybody knows San Diego Comic-Con, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was studying Black history is inspiring to me to just see how much we've progressed. As much as we like to complain that we're not far enough, or why do Black people do this or that, just the inspiration behind where we've come is something that I took away from my studies.
And what do you say the imprint has been of Black people on the comic realm?
Oh, it's been phenomenal. Like, if you look back to the 1990s of just Black people, self-publishing comics in the 1990s on black and white paper, right? And just the hustle. To think about it now, like, we have it so easy in terms of creating content, right? I could go put a book on Amazon within the hour, right? And so just looking at the hustle and the grit of those people in the 90s that built like a comics collective and just kept applying pressure on Marvel and DC to be like, hey, we want more representation. We are here. We can write. We can create, and just kind of banging on the door. But also creating their own things, not waiting for Marvel or DC to open the door. Just was a big takeaway too.
Yeah. Has there been any? Have you noticed any uptick in Black comics since Black Panther? The production. I mean, I'm talking about the production of Black comics.
Yes, in terms of like, if you, it's kind of like hip hop, right? If you only listen to the music on the radio, you don't really know what's going on in hip hop, right?
Right.
And comics are like that. If you're only consuming and watching what Marvel and DC are doing, then you don't really know what's going on in comics. So when people say that, comics are not diverse, they are. There are people creating all types of different storylines around Black community and Black people, but they're not doing it sort of at a mainstream level. But there are so many people who are starting Kickstarters to get their books funded and, really creating their own fan base. That's the beautiful thing about today is if you work, build your own fan base around your thing, and find your people to support you without having to bang on the door of places like Marvel or DC or some of the other independent publishers.
Nope, I couldn't agree more. And I was just reading an article about that. We're in the moment now of finding your own audience and super serving that audience. You don't have to wait for the big boys to come to town. You can do your own thing. And frankly, that's the way of the future anyway. Nobody's going to be so big anymore that everybody's watching you or listening to you. There are too many options, too many choices out there. What you have to do is to find your audience, nuance your work, build your fan base, and serve that particular fan base. You can still do quite well by serving your own audience. And so, again, just reading an article about the wave of the future and how to make a name for yourself, how to do what you're called to do by serving your own audience. So I couldn't agree more with that assessment. All right, let's get straight away now into your work about Wakanda, and specifically why Wakanda matters, what Black Panther reveals about psychology, identity, and communication. I don't even know where to begin. I'm just going to say go, and you start, and I'll follow you.
Yeah. So, it's a big book. It covers a lot. I think it will help to give your audience just some themes that we touch upon in the book. And I say we because even though, this book was my idea, I put it into place. Every chapter is written by a different person. So I got a collective of like communication scholars, mental health professionals, right? PhDs who are doing the work, social workers, to write different chapters so that we can really dig deep into things like racial identity development. The psychology of collective identity is sort of the first part of the book. And then we dig into the psychology of racial identity and development. And then the last two sort of themes of the book is intergenerational trauma and resistance, epigenetics, how we carry trauma within our DNA from our ancestors. And then finally the book ends with talking about sort of the psychology of cognition and identification. And what that basically means is, how we identify with ourselves, how we identify with others, and this concept of cognitive dissonance, which just means mental discomfort, right? We all experience mental discomfort. It's like, I believe that I should work out, but I haven't been to the gym in 3 months, right? That's going to give you cognitive discomfort. But applying that concept to T'Challa's evolution from being very isolated to then saying, hey, we're going to put these centers in Oakland and try to help out our African diaspora, if you will.
What do you think specifically Black Panther does, in fact, say to us, reveal to us about our psychology?
So it gets deep, and so let me give you actually an unpopular opinion, because while the movie is amazing, the first movie is amazing, there are some things in there for Black Americans to think about and question. And so if you remember in the first movie, when Killmonger, Eric, goes back to the ancestral plane, sort of when he takes that herb, he goes back to the worst point in his life when his father was killed, right? And so it's like this idea that even Black Americans in sort of the afterlife, they go back to the worst human existence. That didn't happen to T'Challa, right? T'Challa didn't go back to this traumatic moment. And so I think there is so much to unpack in the film when we really sit down and dissect it, which is what makes it a great movie, right? Multiple people taking different things away from what they are seeing. So I think there's some psychology around that, around self-love, around, self-love for the Black community in terms of thinking about those images.
When you use the term, as you did a moment ago, racial identity development, unpack that for me vis-a-vis Black Panther.
Yeah, so we talk about like inner city trauma and, the things that Killmonger had to go through as a black kid in Oakland, and how that influenced his perspective, right? And when you watch Black Panther, the first movie, people empathize with Killmonger, right? We're like, yeah, we're like, it's not right to just pick up guns and just want to, blow everybody off the planet, but we can empathize with it, right? But we're like, but man, we sure are tired, fighting this fight all these years. And so when we talk about racial identity development, it's the things that our environment, how our environment impacts the way we feel about ourselves as Black people and others. And T'Challa had a completely different experience, right? He doesn't have that sort of inner city trauma that Eric's going to have, and so he has a different perspective.
On the eve of the release of Wakanda Forever, the sequel to Black Panther, we're discussing in this hour with Dr. Sheena Howard why Wakanda matters, what Black Panther reveals about psychology, identity, and communication. We've talked a bit about psychology, a bit about racial identity development, and when we come forward, we'll talk about communication vis-a-vis this film. And I also want to get into a conversation, she sort of teed this up in my mind at least, about what Black Panther, what Wakanda says to us about Black humanity. I think there's something to interrogate there. A great deal more to talk about as we celebrate in advance the huge success that we're all predicting for Wakanda Forever on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jealousy, negativity, tongue
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Doug Davis, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Maryland's Democratic Governor-elect African-American Wes Moore will meet with current Governor Larry Hogan today to discuss a transfer to a new administration. Moore defeated Dan Cox in Tuesday's general election and is the first African-American to hold the position of governor for the state of Maryland. Race for U.S. Senate. African-American Democrat Mandela Barnes conceded the race to Republican U.S. Senator Ron Johnson. He made the announcement shortly after news outlets called the race for Johnson. The student who used racial slurs in a viral video at the University of Kentucky is now permanently banned from campus. The school's president called her behavior disgusting. Sophia Rosing pleaded not guilty on Monday to her charges of assault, public intoxication, and disorderly conduct. She's out on bail. And that's the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
We have a couple of wrecks affecting the drive on the 10 westbound, starting in West Covina at Sunset Avenue. Everything wrapping up there. Then up ahead, 10 west at Peck Road, an accident clearing. In Pasadena, a stalled vehicle has cleared. 210 eastbound at Rosemead. And in Newhall, you've got a stalled vehicle on the 5 southbound before the 14 interchange.
These days, there isn't enough easy to go around, so here's some. Meet Solo, the revolutionary single-seat commuter that makes EV easy. Easy to drive, easy to charge, and at under $19,000, easy to afford. It's even easy to order at drivesoloev.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers had more game to the Clippers last night. LeBron James went to the locker room with a possible groin injury with 5 minutes left in the game. The Lakers will know more after LeBron has an MRI today. LeBron had 30 points before he left. A sad development in the Brittany Griner situation. The WNBA star was transferred from a Russian jail to a prison colony where inmates are often forced to do hard labor. Griner's Russian attorneys have not been told of the colony's location. Griner was given a 9-year sentence in August for alleged drug possession. Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford is in the concussion protocol. His status for Sunday's game against Arizona is uncertain. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. This sports report was brought to you by MVP Accident Attorneys. When it comes to your settlement, we're slam dunk. Call 833-MVP-WINS or check their website at themvp.com for a free case review.
When you're the victim of a car accident, hiring the right law firm can be the difference between a rewarding settlement and striking out. Call the pros at MVP Accident Attorneys at 833-MVP-WINS for your free consultation.
Call me your MVP. Roll out.
The all-new Gardena Nissan is proud to be a partner of KBLA, and right now, during their fall sales event, 0 down delivers any new or pre-owned car at conveniently on Redondo Beach Boulevard at Western, and they specialize in helping folks out who have no credit, bad credit, bankruptcies, or repos. The folks at Gardena Nissan will take fantastic care of you and help you get into the car you need and deserve at a spectacular price. Visit them today or shop online at GardenaNissan.com. The all-new Gardena Nissan is proud to be a partner of KBLA, and right now, during their fall sales event, 0 down delivers any new or pre-owned car at Gardena Nissan. For the best deals, log on to GardenaNissan.com. 0 down on approved credit. GardenaNissan.com.
Roll out.
Our Weekly Los Angeles is the largest audited black newspaper in the state of California, with a distribution of over 50,000 copies weekly. Pick up a copy every Thursday to get the latest news on African American communities of LA. You can also keep up with what's going on in Los Angeles and surrounding cities by going to www.ourweekly.com. The Our Weekly website is updated daily with the current news about us and for us. For your advertising needs, Our Weekly offers economical advertising packages to fit your budget. Feel free to call Our Weekly Los Angeles at 323-905-1300 or visit the website ourweekly.com. Our Weekly Los Angeles, reporting news that matters to you.
The Institute for Diversity Certification is all about the 3 Ds: dedication, determination, and discipline. Learn more about our globally recognized diversity certification program today by calling 1-800-983-6192. Again, 1-800-983-6192. Or visit diversitycertification.org. As the #1 organization for certified diversity professionals and also certified diversity executive credentials, diversitycertification.org will provide an opportunity for you to demonstrate dedication to the field, determination to make progress, and more discipline to your process. Go today and learn more about the diversity certification system. Call 1-800-983-6192. Again, 1-800-983-6192. Or go to diversitycertification.org. That's diversitycertification.org. The standard of excellence, equity, diversity, and inclusion.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. For KBLA Talk 1580.
As I mentioned earlier, a nice soundtrack from Black Panther. That's The Weeknd, Pray For Me. We played some Kendrick earlier. A lot of great artists on the original soundtrack for Black Panther. We will see what Wakanda Forever brings us vis-a-vis soundtrack. But that's, again, a track called Pray For Me by The Weeknd. I'm Tavis Smiley. It's not the weekend yet, but on this coming weekend, Wakanda Forever will be released, and it's going to make money, big money all around the globe, no doubt. The original Black Panther is now over $1.3 billion in gross earnings, and so we expect no less from Wakanda Forever, and people are just bracing for this film being released tomorrow. I should mention again, in case you just tuned in, that today, since we got phone calls asking me about this, I had to find out myself. Today, during the 5 o'clock hour of his show, Don Amici versus Everybody, Don is giving away those 2 Wakanda Forever weekend packages full of a lot of good stuff. So those are being given away today during the 5 o'clock hour for those who call to inquire about that. Do not miss Don Amici's show today, or any day for that matter. Every day, Don Amici versus Everybody, 4 to 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580. But in the 5 o'clock hour today, he'll give those away. It also occurred to me during that break that there may be 1 or 2 people, literally, who've not seen Black Panther because it is, again, such a huge box office success. But we jumped into this conversation, and Dr. Sheena Howard, our guest in this hour, who's the editor of a book called Why Wakanda Matters, What Black Panther Reveals About Psychology, Identity, and Communication. We'll get back to her in just a second, but she started talking about T'Challa and started talking about Killmonger, and I thought I should give you a brief understanding for those who have not seen the film, who maybe be catching up when they go see Wakanda Forever. But after here's a brief synopsis. This is a Marvel project, of course, from Disney Studios. Here's a brief synopsis of Black Panther in case you did not get it. Get a chance to check it out. So after the death of his father, T'Challa, played by Chadwick Boseman, returns home to the African nation of Wakanda to take his rightful place as king. When a powerful enemy suddenly reappears, Killmonger, played by Michael B. Jordan, T'Challa's mettle as king, and as Black Panther gets tested, and he's drawn into a conflict that puts the fate of Wakanda and the entire world at risk. Faced with treachery and danger, the young king must rally his allies and release the full power of Black Panther to defeat his foes and secure the safety of his people. For those who've seen the movie, you know all about that. For those who've not seen it, thought I'd give you a quick synopsis of what Black Panther was in case you didn't see it, and I intend to catch up this weekend when Wakanda Forever comes out. So there you have a description. I didn't write that. It's nicely written, so it comes from Marvel and comes from Disney. But now you know, in case you missed the first one, and again, I'm playing catch up now. Dr. Howard, we were talking about your book, again, Why Wakanda Matters, What Black Panther Reveals About Psychology, Identity, and Communication. We talked about psychology, identity. Let's talk about why Wakanda Matters vis-a-vis communication. Unpack that one for me.
So, you know, one of the chapters at the end of the book talks about sort of a psychological theory that's also found in communication, which I mentioned earlier about cognitive dissonance. And so if you remember from Black Panther, like T'Challa basically has to be thrown over a cliff in order for Nakia to convince him, like, hey, we need to share our resources to help people that look like us. And so it just shows how the behaviors and actions in terms of T'Challa had to come together to encourage him to have a different world view. And so this is the same thing that happens with us in everyday life. You know, the people that we keep ourselves around, how people talk to us, how we talk to ourselves, propels us to take different actions. And so we talk about all of those different dynamics in sort of that last section of the book.
One of the things I love about Black Panther, Black Panther, and for that matter, Wakanda Forever, again, opening tomorrow, are all the black people that you see on screen. And I know this matters to you. I know it matters to you vis-a-vis your work and your witness, this notion of consciously hiring black folk in order to advance our goals in Hollywood and beyond. But what, aside from the storyline, aside from the huge success of the film, what does it mean for you when you sit in a movie theater and you see that many Negroes, that many black folk in one cast for one film?
Oh, my goodness. I talk about this all the time because I know the focus over the last few decades has been, you know, more representation. We need to see more of us. And that is totally important. But in my mind, that's like a baby step in the grand scheme of things, because we need to get black people paid and employed to do the things that they love to do, just like white people have been. So this means the actors, this means the comic book writers and creators and editors, this means the cameraman, right? But black people in those positions. And so I think and we need to move towards a more economic perspective. And so I've actually been talking about this a lot at speaking engagements. I call it the creator's empowerment journey. And so if I just take myself as an individual creator, writer, as I climb up the ladder of success, it is important to me to hire black people, and you have to be conscious about that. This has to be conscious because, let me give you an example. I walk to a black-owned coffee shop every morning. On the way to walk into this coffee shop, I pass 3 or 4 Starbucks on the way. But I want this black coffee shop to be there next year, to be there 5 years from now. I want this black coffee shop to be a chain like Starbucks 10 years from now. And so if we don't make a concerted effort and go out of our way, sometimes we have to go out of our way to get black people paid so that we can be the owners of the next Walmart or Amazon or whatever it may be. And so this translates to what we see on screen as well, making sure that Black people are getting paid not just to be the actors, but also behind the screen to do the work.
Yeah. Speaking of your personal creators empowerment journey, I mentioned earlier that you are the first Black woman to win an Eisner Award. It's essentially the Oscars of comics. That's a big deal. How did you process being so honored?
Anybody that was in the audience when I won that award, I just cried.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even give a speech because, you know what, when I did that first book, Black Comics, Politics of Race and Representation, that's the book that won the Eisner Award.
Mm-hmm.
It was literally based off of my dissertation that not a lot of people believed in, and it was just kind of a lonely path, getting rejected by publisher after publisher, but believing in myself that this is important. This needs to be out there. This book will find a home, and then to fast forward to be winning a major award like that at San Diego Comic-Con it was unbelievable. It was one of those moments, award ceremony, I'm not going to win, but I'm just happy to be here. And then you win, right?
And then you cry, you ain't got your speech ready.
Exactly. Now, the next time I win an Eisner, I'm going to have a speech. I promise.
Yeah, I'm sure you learned your lesson the first time that it can happen for you. Speaking of learning lessons, though, tell me a bit more of what you learned about being true to your calling, to your passion, to your vocation, even when others tell you that you're wasting your time.
Yeah. You know, in graduate school, I had a person tell me that my existence in the PhD program diminished her PhD. Like, that's how bad it was. But you know what I want to say to people is, you have to believe in yourself. And when you create something, you can feel it inside if this thing is something that you need to pursue. And that path can be lonely for a very long time. But you have to believe in yourself even when you're scared to keep going, because this thing is important enough to you. And if you're doing it from a genuine place, like I genuinely was like, no, this is unfair that there's not a book about the history of Black people in comics. Like, I was genuinely upset. And so do it from a place of putting something out in the world that people can learn from and benefit from, right, for generations to come, and just stay on your path and be consistent. And eventually the world will catch up for, like, the trendsetter, right? But, yeah.
No, I appreciate that response. When we come forward, I want to give you an opportunity to address this question of this notion of Black humanity. We've been talking in this hour about why Wakanda matters, what Black Panther reveals about psychology, identity, and communication. I want to go expressly and directly to this question of what we take away from Black Panther, what we take away from Wakanda forever, about the notion of Black humanity. We're talking with Dr. Sheena Howard. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. Good thing we've got 3 hours. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Wakanda Forever. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by LA Care Health Plan. This is the week we have all awaited. The highly anticipated sequel to Black Panther is set to release this week in theaters, Wakanda Forever, starring Tina Huerta, Michael B. Jordan, Letitia Wright, Lupita Nyong'o, to name a few. Now, Black Panther made about $202 million in 2018 on opening weekend. Do you think that this sequel will do the same? Tweet us to let us know at KBLA 1580. And thanks to our new sponsors, LA Care Health Plan, the largest publicly operated health plan in the country, is pleased to announce that its LA Care covered products has the most affordable rates across all metal levels in Los Angeles County. And thanks to an extension of federal subsidies, some members will have premiums as low as $0 a month. Log on to lacare.org.
Hi, I'm movies, The Big Leap on Fox, Charmed, and more. I started an all-inclusive luxury travel club called Top Shelf Getaways that's now visited 14 countries in the last 2 years and counting. Now, we're rolling out our local staycations so you can experience the excitement and spirit of adventure that we're known for right here in Southern California. Starting November 11th, come join us for a celebration of excellence as we honor some of Hollywood's biggest legends at the W Hotel in Hollywood, California. Our staycation will feature live performers, singers, magicians, mixologists, and private chefs, as well as a private screening of Black Panther Wakanda forever at the world-famous TCL Chinese Theater and an after-party. Transportation from the hotel and overnight stay at the W are included. November 12th will be our bottomless brunch pool party sponsored by El Cristiano Tequila. All of this for only $500 per person, $800 per couple, or select the locals rate to indulge in Friday night only. Follow us on Instagram or visit TopShelfGetaways.com to secure your tickets today. We can't wait to see you. And don't forget to wear your all-black cocktail attire.
If you're the victim of a car accident, call the pros at MVP Accident Attorneys. When it comes to getting the maximum compensation you deserve, our team hits it out of the park. Call 833-MVP-WINS for a free case review.
Call me your MVP.
Did you know fixing outdoor leaks can save 27 to 90 gallons of water per day? Even tasters. Conserving water starts with a few simple water-saving actions at home and in your yard, like adjusting your sprinklers and adding drip irrigation so you water only where it's needed. We can all do our part to conserve water. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more water-saving tips. Save water, save California.
Conversations that matter. You're listening to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
Dr. Sheena Howard, let's talk about black humanity, because for me, it's always at the epicenter of every conversation. Ultimately, we are trying to situate the humanity of black people in the epicenter of the dialogue. What are the takeaways to your mind about black humanity? What are the things to wrestle with vis-a-vis black humanity brought to us by Black Panther, by Wakanda Forever?
Yes, this is an amazing question, and I think if we look at Killmonger in the film, he is a representation of being disconnected from his own humanity, and I just want to unpack that a little bit. So we talk about post-traumatic slave syndrome in one of the chapters of the book, and this is how the trauma of slavery has permanently affected our DNA, right? Black psychologists. This is why we have mental health, theories in here that are black-centered. And so, what scientists have found is that there are chemical markers related to the stress of slavery. And so we have post-traumatic slave syndrome. And some of the symptoms look like being angry, feeling like the future is bleak, being hyper vigilant, all things that you can see in Killmonger in the film. And so when we talk about humanity, the feelings we have about ourselves and others, and when I say others, black people. And so when you look at some of the condition of black people today, I'm in Philadelphia. There is a lot of, black on black crime and poverty and all of those types of things. And so cannot be disconnected from the history of slavery. And so the question is, how do we get to a better place? How do we get to a better collective place as black people?
Yeah. I love Philly. City of brotherly love, sisterly affection.
I love Philly too, baby.
I love Philadelphia. Speaking of which, I wonder whether or not you think there are ways in which, let me just back up and say this. Black Panther did not make $1.3 billion and counting because only black people went to see it. We can't, I love us, but we can't do that by ourselves. I raise that to ask whether or not you think there are things, notions, realities about black humanity that those who happen not to be black took away or can take away from this series, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, one of the interesting things when I studied the Boondocks, because the Boondocks also had crossover appeal. It wasn't just black people watching the show and reading the comic strips. One of the things is when you watch a film like Black Panther or you watch the show, the Boondocks, you are taking different things away from what you're seeing. So black people watching that movie are taking one thing away, right? White people watching that movie are taking another thing away. And this is what makes great content, great films, great books, where you can have a debate about what you're seeing and what it means to you. And those perspectives can be motivated to go see it again. And I want to see what you're seeing, and I want to see what you saw in this film. And so I think different people based on your worldview and your race, and even down to black Americans versus, Nigerians that came to this country, are taking something different away from that film.
Yep. By and large, though, do you think, though, that the level of black humanity is elevated when others see this film?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I hear that pregnant pause. I hear it.
I don't think that one movie is enough to do that.
Okay.
I think that white people have to have a certain sense of collective identity and consciousness as well to take from that movie what needs to be taken away from it to do material things in like real life. And so I don't think one movie can raise that consciousness.
I respect the candor and the transparency of your answer. I receive it. I asked the question, you gave an honest answer, and I love that. That's what makes radio work. Our remaining moments with Dr. Sheena Howard when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where we turn red lights to green lights and keep it moving.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
When you tune in to KBLA Talk 1580, we want you to know what you're downloading.
Now, you listen to me, and you listen to me closely.
In a recent African-American media issue survey conducted by the Public Opinion Research and Public Policy Consulting firm Everis, KBLA Talk 1580 was found to be the most trusted, credible, and reliable source on the airways for Black Los Angeles and beyond. Check it out. We take our role seriously as your trusted messenger. At KBLA Talk 1580, it's about truth, not ratings. And when you hear us say, when we come forward, we mean it.
That's the bottom line.
We're not going back. Not to the back of the bus, not to back alleys, not back in the closet, and definitely not back to the good old days.
Might as well forget it. No way.
We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
The City of Los Angeles Department of Cannabis Regulation invites you to participate in a virtual in your community, partnering on progressive enforcement. They want to engage and receive input for you on a very important topic, illegal cannabis activity in your community. Community involvement is a key component to identifying problems and discovering new ideas to fix them. These virtual events will include a presentation on how DCR, the Los Angeles Police Department, and other city departments work together to tackle enforcement against illegal cannabis businesses. Each meeting will focus on a different region of the city. For more information on times, dates, and regions, please visit cannabis.lacity.org.
Interrogating your assumptions and expanding your inventory of ideas. Let's get back to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
Got about 3 minutes left in conversation with Dr. Sheena Howard. 3 minutes left. Enough time, I think, for two questions. Number one, cinema is a very powerful medium. As you well know, Dr. Howard, you were part of it. What did you make of the cross-armed greeting, the gesture, the salute that came out of that film that people started doing everywhere?
Yeah, it's amazing that it transcended from film into like real material life, and it's a representation of solidarity, right? We talk about this in the first part of the book. People were doing sort of that salute, and it's just a representation of solidarity, right? Humanity. I see you, you see me, right? We're in this together. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, you think that gesture survives? Does it continue for years to come?
I'm not sure if it has staying power. The next generation might lose it, but you know, it'll be revamped after Wakanda Forever this weekend.
All right.
For sure.
I got it. And I think this is the exit question. I wonder whether or not the success of Black Panther and the success we assume and hope of Wakanda Forever, when it opens tomorrow, will, how might I phrase this, will generate a sort of new interest in Black mythology.
Ooh, so I'll say yes, and at least the conversations that I've been having with people, as I write for DC and Marvel and those types of things, they're like, hey, put some Black folktales in your work, put some Black mythology in your work. So I could say myself as a creator and writer, I am definitely doing those things, right? Putting things like a Nazi the Spider into comic book scripts and that Black mythology that I think is so important going forward to preserve Black culture and history and to empower us instead of Greek mythology being the starting point for everything. So I can just tell you from a creator and from a writer's perspective, I am doing that, and I would assume that more people will be doing that as the companies become more comfortable allowing us to do that.
Yeah. So finally, there are a lot of folk in this town. I'm sitting. You're in Philadelphia. I'm in L.A. where this radio station is flagship, heard across the country, but based in L.A. And people make a lot of money in this town prognosticating. So let me ask you, how well do you think Wakanda Forever will do? Again, Black Panther is over the $1.3 billion mark. What do you think about Wakanda Forever?
I think. I think it's important to speak certain things into existence. I'm gonna say this movie is gonna blow the first Black Panther out of the water with sales. Let's say that. Let's speak that into existence.
Yeah, Disney's hoping that went from your mouth straight to God's ears. I can assure you, Disney is hoping, and Marvel is hoping the same exact thing. Dr. Sheena Howard, let me just say this very, very quickly. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your witness. I mean that sincerely. Thank you for assigning yourself to do the kind of work that had not been done before. And as you can see by all the success that you are enjoying, you made a good decision no matter what they told you. So thank you for what you're doing and will do in the coming months and years. Good to have you on this program. Wakanda Forever. That's our show for today. I am delighted to have had you stick around for all 3 hours today. I enjoyed it. Hope you did as well. Tomorrow morning, the best of Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580. Time now to make room for the KBLA Midday Money Chain. Up next, the Millionaires Roundtable with Lynn Richardson, to be followed by Ahead of the Crypto Curve with Anaja Roberts. Old money, new money, it don't matter. We got you covered around here on KBLA Talk 1580. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, keep the faith.